The Cleveland Browns gave the Cincinnati Bengals a smackdown this past Sunday. They beat the Bengals 24-3. And even though I picked the Browns to win this game, I did not see this performance coming out of Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense. You guys know I love me some Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow, what the hell happened to you Sunday, fam? Did you just all of a sudden get paid and forget how to be a good quarterback? No excuse. I don't give a damn if it's week 1, week 0, the preseason, OTAs, training camp. Joe Burrow, you are considered to be the second best quarterback in the league to Patrick Mahomes. You don't get the luxury of being able to come out in week 1 and put up less than 100 yards passing against the Cleveland motherfreaking Browns. And we're going to give credit to the Cleveland Browns defense. They got a new defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, and you definitely have to be super impressed with what you saw out of that defense. But how much of that was Jim Schwartz, and how much of that was just Joe Burrow sucking water through a garden hose? I love Joe Burrow. He's one of my favorite players in the league, but damn, you come out and you put out a dud like that, Joe Burrow, and you're the highest paid player in the history of this league now? Come on, Joe Burrow. You got to do better. You got to do better. I mean, you talk about a defensive clinic? It was one point in this game when Cincinnati had, 4 straight 3-and-outs on offense? With Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, and the new improved offensive line, and this is what you do? And I get that Joe Burrow missed a large chunk of training camp. He was going to come out and look a little rusty. But I'm not giving him a pass for the BS that we saw this past Sunday. You cannot give Joe Burrow a pass for this performance. Will he get better? He better get better. I mean, the Cleveland Browns defense just put on an absolute masterclass performance. Myles Garrett was hitting home. This defensive line looked more improved against the run. I mean, this defense that Cleveland had looked completely different from the defense that we saw out of this team in 2022. Deshaun Watson, he didn't have a great performance. He had a mid performance, and it's easy to overlook how he played in this game because Joe Burrow played so shitty that, of course, you're not going to give too much thought about how Deshaun Watson played because Cleveland got the win. But I still think that Deshaun Watson still looks very rusty. If you can even call it rust at this point, this may just be the new Deshaun Watson. I had one of my homeboys, my guy Juice, subscribe to his podcast, the Juice Alert, who hit me up talking about something. You saw Deshaun Watson? Hell yeah, I saw Deshaun Watson. And I was far from impressed. 16-29, 154 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, and 1 touchdown on the ground. This is the kind of performance that we are going to applaud out of somebody who's making $250 million guaranteed. Imagine if Joe Burrow would have brought his A game in this game. Not even his A game. Imagine if Joe Burrow even brought some game to this matchup. How differently this game could have went. You normally don't win games like this when you have mid-quarterback play. But since Joe Burrow played so bad, it was a huge reason why the Browns were able to win this game. Deshaun Watson, he still looks really inconsistent with his accuracy. His decision-making has looked a lot better, but he just doesn't really look all that comfortable in this offense. And you can't use the whole, it's just week 1 excuse anymore. I mean, we've been making excuses about Deshaun Watson having mid-performances since he came back last year from his suspension. Eventually, when do we just say that this is the new Deshaun Watson? I mean, when is it going to click? The Browns got to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And one thing about it is that after a week 1 loss, Pittsburgh always shows up most of the times. And this Steelers defense is even better than what it was last season, despite the fact that they're not going to have Cam Hayward. Cincinnati's defense played solid in this game, given how bad their offense was and how they had to bail them out. But Cleveland, I'm not liking what I'm seeing out of Deshaun Watson. You can make all the excuses you want to. You can continue to say, give Deshaun Watson time, but how long do I have to wait for a $250 million guaranteed quarterback to play like he's worth all that guaranteed money? I've yet to see Deshaun Watson have a single performance yet with the Browns that showed me the Cleveland Browns made the right decision by giving up so much and giving up all that money to get Deshaun Watson. This was a game that I needed Deshaun Watson to at least have a solid performance. This was not a solid performance. This was a bare bones performance. I'm paying you $250 million guaranteed to do this. If I'm giving you this much money, I expect dominance. I expect at least a Tua Tagovailoa performance. You know, the rushing game is still there. Nick Chubb is still a monster, still one of the best backs in the league. And Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, I think they got a really solid group of receivers. They got a really good offensive line, even though they lost their starting right tackle out for the season again. But Cleveland has a lot of depth on their offensive line, a lot of talent there. So even though they're going to be without their right tackle for the rest of the year, they got a young, promising rookie out of Ohio State and DeJuan Jones, who's going to be filling in, who had a great preseason. He should be fine, even though he is going to get tested against TJ Watt next week. But I think he can handle his own. But Deshaun Watson, I mean, he did not play good in this game. And people are not talking about it because the Browns won. But this is week 1. What's going to happen when you go up against Cincinnati again and Joe Burrow actually remembers how to play football again? Do you think you're going to be able to win 9 to 10 games with 16 out of 29, 154 passing yards and 1 touchdown and 1 INT out of Deshaun Watson? Eventually, we need Deshaun Watson to wake up and show us something. We know that the Browns have a great team around Deshaun Watson. That never was the question about Cleveland. We all knew, even the biggest detractors of the Browns even gave them their props and said that they had a good team going into this year. What's going to make or break Cleveland this year is Deshaun Watson. So you come out and you get the win. That's cool, but I need your franchise quarterback, Mr. $250 million guaranteed, to actually have some good games, and we've yet to see it. Yes, you got a really impressive win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Your defense looks really good under Jim Schwartz, which is not a surprise because Jim Schwartz is one of the most respected and most highly praised defensive coordinators in the NFL for a reason. But the Cincinnati Bengals, man, like, what the hell happened to the offense? Like, did the guys go out the night before the game and get sick? Did they have a hangover or something? Like, did somebody put something bad in their breakfast that caused them to have a bad performance? Because this was a complete shit show out of Cincinnati. And you mainly got to point the fingers at Joe Burrow, which we will. He was missing open wide receivers. He was missing some routine throws downfield that he normally makes when he's in the zone. I mean, this Bengals offense just was out of sorts. And this is the kind of performances that you expect week 1 out of most teams, but I don't expect this out of Joe Burrow. I expect greatness out of Joe Burrow. I get that every quarterback has some bad performances and some bad games, but you just became the highest paid player in the history of this league. And this is the kind of performance that you deliver right after it? Okay, Joe Burrow, I hope you can get this fixed. I love you, but I can't excuse what the hell I saw out of you week 1, man. Regardless how much I like you, I just got to call it how it is. You played like a bum. Honestly, like you were looking really bad out there, Joe Burrow. I know you missed a lot of time, but missing a lot of time shouldn't have you out there looking that bad. I mean, goodness gracious.